It's interesting listening to you talk about the exercise selection, where your concern is more transference as opposed to load, or just putting any exercise on a pedestal. It's the transference of the to whatever the end goal actually is, and also the logistics play into it there. So when you're working with these, should we say, valuable individuals, if they're a D1 player or a highly trained spec ops, it's, with all due respect, if they get injured for 3 months, it's a little bit different to, someone gen pop or whatever. What do you see as the role of a strength coach? And I ask this because I know we spoke about it yesterday, Larry, but I think there's a lot of glorification of what a strength coach does for these individuals who are already performing at a high level and probably would in almost any context. So when you are getting these kind of higher performers or valuable individuals, what is your real goal as a strength coach? Because many will look at that and be like, put as many plates on the bar and get them strong, or do all this cool Instagram shit, with them like doing 10-yard dashes after doing deadlift with chains, or what I mean, right?
Yeah.
What is your day to day? What is your actual role if you do it well?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's keep them deployable, keep them not injured. Like and a lot of times, like when you oversimplify like that, a lot of people, they're like, well, wait a second, how do I fuck that up? And it's like, dude, that's literally, because these individuals, like when you look at a professional athlete and you look at like professional operators and pilots, and like you look at the training dumped into them, that's 7 figures. Like each individual is worth 7 figures. And then also the way I explain it to them, because like a lot of them, it's tough. Like when you're talking to somebody that's dropping bombs and shooting guns, and like when you're talking to somebody who's doing that for a living, it's so hard to tell them to think past their nose, because like you're like, hey bud, like let's think about next week. And he's like, motherfucker, like I got to go do this shit. And it's like, yeah, you should probably be pretty focused on that. So you have to be focused further down the line, where a lot of them, I like make sure like, we know you're capable of doing what you're doing because you as an operator like made it through your pipeline. And a lot of coaches, they try to cherry pick that and go like, I made this operator this. And it's like, no, like again, his fucking parents and the shit in his neck, like the stuff in between his ears is what makes him good at that. So my job is to make sure he does that as long as he wants, and to make sure that his quality of life is good for his wife and kids, and that hopefully he can like toss a ball with his grandkids someday. And that's where I'm talking to them, and I'm like, hey, like I'm more your insurance policy than your performance, because we know you're a higher performer. If you're in the setting, you are a high performer. I'm here to think about the shit that you're not thinking about. But then what's funny is the side effect of that is they get really fucking strong. Like when you focus on like making sure this dude is just durable, your strength numbers a lot of times, like organically, if you're lifting the right movements, because again, like what's funny is like with a lot of my teams I work with, like you've never seen on the program a bench press, a squat, or a deadlift in those words. Every variation of it. We've never done a straight up bench. We do a lot of close grip. We do a lot of we can alphabet soup that all day. If you want to hear 100 variations of bench press, like hit us up on a separate Q&A. But you hit all those variations of it, and the side effect of the good health and the durability and the low injury rates is going to be big numbers. And I'd talk to you about what's funny is like sometimes on these, like you can find the data pretty easy, and like I don't even like that fucking word, and I'm going to get made fun of by a lot of people know me close for even saying that word, but you can pull all these metrics on the back end very easy and go, okay, so like we had this deployment, and everybody who came back from this deployment who benched over 300 pounds has healthy shoulders. Everybody who came back from this deployment who deadlifts over 500 pounds has a healthy back. Oh, the dudes who are crying about their shoulders and back and their face down, ass up on the PT table are the ones avoiding getting strong. It's an easy, like, it's like one of these things doesn't look like the other. And like, so it's easy to find these answers to training for injury prevention.
Sure. So when you bullet pointed your philosophy, you mentioned neck and grip, right? Okay. So with those being, and there are 3 things you mentioned, right? So neck and grip were 2/3 of what you noted. How did you come to that conclusion? How did that become so ingrained in how you train people?
So when you take over a population, the first thing I do and I learned for some awesome dudes at like how you read the athlete, the lifter, and when you take over that unit or like whatever it may be, talk to your oldest, most beat up dudes, talk to everybody and ask them what hurts, ask them what injuries are you worried about, what injuries have you had, and then draw conclusions of what do they need to be thinking about, because there might be some injuries they're not even thinking about. And so when I had talked to the first unit I started working with, like, hey, what hurts? And everybody, neck, every single one. You ask them, hey, what are you doing for your neck training? And they just stare at you. And you're like, fucking, this is going to be easy. Like, okay. Anybody who's been around like a masculine, or not to like a physical population like football, wrestling, fighting, like neck is like mandatory. And so when you're talking to these dudes who are wearing helmets and NVGs and even like these pilots too, and they're all in odd, awkward positions with something on their head, and if it's night, it's even heavier. Like, okay, that is not hard to figure out. For me, at least, I was like, 100 reps before bed of neck, just in case I dream of yoke. And so that was a big one where, like, when I talk to a ground unit, so if I'm talking to operators, everybody's got neck issues. If I'm talking to a flying unit, everybody has neck issues. And except for, like, shout out to all my dudes doing it right, because it was funny, we did the NDI survey for like neck pain and stuff, and it was so funny because my folks were such a waste of everybody's time to do that, because they all scored zeros. Like, we train neck, our necks feel great. And so we had to find more people in this survey who don't train neck to find anybody with neck pain. So that was that. And then the grip part marries itself on your absolute strength is going to carry over to grip. And especially in these populations for like operators, every mission set, you're carrying shit. Mandatory. Like, it's happening. You are never slick. You're always going to have external load on, and you're always carrying something. Those two things are always happening. And so it's kind of, I don't want to, like, you figure it out. Like, they have shit on their head, they're carrying stuff, and they're wearing stuff. Let's put on some muscle mass, get grips, get a strong neck. And then with a lot of the assessment selections they do, like at a tier 1 assessment selection, some of them may be carrying things for over 30 miles. And so you're carrying jerry cans in each hand for over 30 miles with load. We should probably get some pretty strong crotch beaters. And it's a good metric for like fatigue as well. So I have a lot of guys, like, if they're like auto-regulating their training that day, just squeeze your fist. Mm-hmm. And you're going to know exactly what you need to adjust that day.
Sure. You mentioned this, they both kind of feed into each other now. So, like, you mentioned kind of your job is keep them deployable, keep them playing, whatever, game day ready, whatever. The grip and the neck training, were kind of two key elements there that you kind of identified as common weak points that lead to them not being deployable or game ready. So if we're looking at your job as almost like a durability or a robustness or resiliency coach, what other facets do you think feed into creating resilient athletes? As general principles, is there an aspect of like putting them in positions that are purposely outside of normal ranges of motion or traditional like linear or bilateral lifts, etc.? Like, how do you go about creating someone who's bulletproof, for want of a better way of putting it?
So I think the range of motion part, get them as strong as hell in the range of motions they need. And I mean, so like, that's kind of a double-edged sword of like, be strong as a human in all of your range of motions that you have, or for your sport or demand, be as strong as you can in those range of motions. I think where some people are like going off the deep end on that is like, they're getting strong in what I call jackass range of motion. So they're like, there's a lot of these like weird trends where it's like, we're going to get suitcase strong. And like, you see, but it's so funny because you see them, I'm not trying to like bash influencers or anything, but like, you see these dudes on Instagram and like, they're doing this like these crazy workouts, but you see their page and it's on nobody. And there's no athletes doing this. And it's like, why the hell would you listen to, because this dude is obviously arrogant enough where if he was doing this with anybody, it's obviously going to be on his page. And so it doesn't work. And so that's where, like, circling back, like as an athlete or an operator pilot, like you have to go like, one, is this even being done with anybody? And two, how would I apply this to me? So get as strong as you can in those range of motions, which again, circle back bodybuilding, like train to full range of motion, stretch contraction. Like it's not that hard, but for a strongman is a huge way to be bulletproof. You don't know how to brace until you have like walked with a sandbag or a yoke or a Zercher yoke. You're gonna learn very fast what bracing is. And so those are great because it's kind of a contrast training too, where like if I'm rucking with 65 pounds and a ruck on a deployment, you know, is like gonna be most times, not ruck, but like all the external load is most of the time gonna be 80 pounds plus. So if I can carry a heavy ass yoke, that stuff's probably going to feel pretty light in contrast. And so we do that a lot for assessment selections too, where like I'll give them a strongman off season. And then as we like start transferring it to the ruck, there'll be like sprinkles of it, but we'll do a heavy strongman off season to get them better at the ruck and finding that value of like feeling bulletproof because you're getting all that isometric strength too. So we do a ton of time under tension strongman. We do a lot of like our strongman will wave in conjugate as well, where we'll do like dynamic effort strongman too for like mountain terrain trips, where I'm going combinations of like farmer walk plus sled, Zercher yoke plus sled, chains, and doing that where we have a mountain terrain trip coming up. And then we're going to wave the intensities off that. But also we're doing it as an off season where like carry heavy shit far strength. I need to have all those muscles where I'm going to be able to hold posture for that whole time, so I'm not getting pulled forward.
Sure. So you think, I mean, there's a big trend there with loaded carries. Do you think, you know, for anyone who's listening to this that isn't special ops or whatever, isn't an athlete, do you think that's a really underutilized training modality in general? Obviously, there's a space element, but do you think that, you know, when people are talking about what are the big movement patterns we should be strong on, do you think that should be in there as like a pillar for that reason, the postural strength and the robustness?
Yeah, that should be a core value for anybody because like, so I'm on the flight yesterday and I'm like, dude, I'm obnoxious as hell to talk to. I'm like Forrest Gump of strength. Like whenever I like meet people, like we just like, I'm like, yeah, let's talk. And I'm sitting next to a really nice lady, grandma, shout out to D. And we're talking she likes fitness and likes nutrition and stuff. And likes, like, we're just talking about like what she does. And usually they'll get to like a point where like anybody you can circle back to what is functional training, which is carry heavy shit far. We've bastardized functional training. It's not fitting in a suitcase. It's moving odd objects is functional. And so when I'm talking to this grandma, it's like, you need front loaded carries. You got grandkids. You're going to have great grandkids. And like, I think like if you're a parent and you can't hold your kid while you're eating, you're full of shit. Like you should have that capability to like, I got to hold my kid while I'm eating. If you have to set your kid down, like start fucking doing some carries. And because it's going to happen. And like when you see, there was a bodybuilder who tore his bicep, and I think the reason was like he was moving a washing machine. It's like at some point, dude, you should have learned how to brace because like bodybuilders are my favorite to teach strongman to for first time lifters because like transfer is a thing. Transfer is a thing. And when I'm working with a bodybuilder, they know how to cue their muscles better than anybody because they know how to pose and flex. And so like I'm drawing in and teaching them like which finger to put pressure on to like pull in lat, and they're doing it perfectly because they know how to adjust those poses on stage. So they're awesome to teach strongman to, but had this bodybuilder learned that, he would have known where to brace instead of trying to like curl a washing machine. And that's why like with, you were talking about team setting of you were talking about space, like space is an issue.
Yeah.
And strongman is really easy to do in that facet when you're on limited space. And we do this all the time with the teams I work with because like you never know what space they're going to have. So when you're doing a team setting, because like I've had a full room of people doing strongman at once, and like if you've loaded yokes and stuff, like, you know, that's not really team setting. But if I have 40 guys in the weight room at each time doing strongman, we'll close the gap a little bit more, and we'll do like instead of doing a straightforward carry, we'll do small box step up. So I'll keep it like under 8 inches, and we'll do heavy Zerchers for time On the interval, we'll do heavy step ups with the safety bar. The only place to buy that is elitefts. That's the only place we will buy it. And we'll do that for the small box step ups, and we'll do timed intervals and go heavy. But you can do it in a large setting with minimal space. Like, I hate when people are like, oh, I can't do the yoke because I didn't have the space. And it's like, dude, you can literally walk back and forth with safety bar, make it even better with that small box, but you can do it in team settings and small spaces. We'll do time under tension, walking back and forth with a farmer walk.
I mean, you can even march on the spot, right? I mean, I'm not sure if Ilya, when he was talking to you yesterday, was saying about, instead of walking up and down here, we just had hanging chains on his yoke. So when he stands there and marches on the spot, the chains are, you can do it if you want to, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like in terms of creating a robust athlete, it's I don't want to like boil down your philosophy too much and dumbify it, but it sounds like, if you've got to carry 80 pounds, we're going to get you carrying 150 pounds. Like, make it harder than the shit you actually have to do.
Yes.
Kind of creates a robust person. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because we'll do, for like the carry emphasis, and this is a good, so I was talking about limb fact lifts. This is like a really good way to auto regulate for like your main lifts. And what I'll do so we're going to an assessment selection prep for the deadlift is going to be your best indicator for a good rucker. No, and anybody who wants to fucking throw down on the numbers, like, I'll fucking, like, let's go. I got everybody's deadlifts, all their strength that goes with it, and you can look at those ruckers compared to the deadlifts, and their deadlift to ruck ratio is always going to be the biggest like predictor you find on a good rucker. Especially because like a lot of these dudes too, like you're talking about, like if you're like in that 200-pound range and you're hitting triple body weight deadlifts, like you're probably doing something right, and your relative strength's pretty good on top of your absolute strength. And so what we had found, or my guys, like obviously like us at this table know, but like we're talking about like my guys who like had to stumble upon this, is like they found their grip readiness and their carry heavy shit far readiness was a big indicator of their deadlift. And so one of my like favorite dudes ever, he put it perfectly. Out of respect for what he's doing, I won't say his name, and like when he's done doing what he's doing, like I'll fucking say his name to everybody, and this dude is awesome. And he put it perfectly because he deadlifts the house, and he was the operator of the year at the tier 1 OTC he was at, and he was like talking to me soundboard and post. So like you make it in the door at a tier 1 unit. Now you have to keep yourself there. So it doesn't mean, it's kind of like an NFL camp. Like just because you got picked up in free agency, like now it's time to earn your 53-man roster spot. And so he was there, kicked ass, still kicking ass. And he was like, hey man, my like grip's kind of getting shoddy. I was like, how's your deadlift? He's like, fucking awful. I was like, he's like, so if I'm retiring and I was like, dude, you're going to take over my emails for a week. Like, he goes, if I'm retiring at 65, 25 to 35 is my deadlift for the grip at 65. I was like, okay, we just solved all the tactical world's problems right now. Like, thank you. Like yeah. So big time indicator there. And it's going to like, what we'll do for a lot of the, like we were talking about the like small distance, like, so I'll have them do extended holds on deadlift. So like if I have on that assessment selection prep, my heavier deadlifters, like if a dude is nailing the gold standard for like all the military PT tests and stuff is always the trap bar. And if I have a guy who's over a 600-pound trap bar deadlift, I'm more concerned with like maintaining the strength and power in that assessment selection than I am building it, because like I want it to transfer. And so what I'll do is a lot of extended holds with them, where I have one dude who like we did a 60-second 600-pound like hold, and like we'll work, and I aim for like on the different, depending on like obviously I'm scaling it per deadlift, and I'll have them have, these are your working weights for the holds compared to your best deadlift. And like if they're able to hit over 35 seconds on what I'm throwing at them, I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot. If they're failing under 30 on those, then I'm like, okay, we got to bring the grip up a little bit, but I don't really want to mess with their absolute strength. And if they're drilling the 60 seconds, I'm like, dude, we're good to go. But then like the guys who are like weaker coming into the preps, we'll we'll get a bigger carryover off their absolute strength than we will anything else, because their absolute strength for a lot of these dudes, they don't realize, is their limiting factor for the ruck. And so if I have a dude who has a 300-pound deadlift, those carries are going to feel heavy as hell. The ruck pack's going to feel heavy as hell. Like, the stronger we get him, we're going to see a carryover, just because he already is quite the endurance athlete. But that's the hard selling part, where like you have to talk to them and be like, hey man, we can't chase the low hanging fruit here, because I'm not going to be that coach who over specifies and you go and fail, and me and you go, I don't know what happened. We were doing all the right stuff. We did the endurance stuff. And like, because that's an easy trap to fall into, to go, when you're catering to the specificity so hard and then they fall and you're like, well, we did, like, you had the 3 mile run. We did the 3 mile run. You had the ruck. We did that. Like, I don't know what happened, but it's like, well, why do they suck at those things? You as the coach, you figure out what is going to carry over to those, not the specificity, but what the carryover is.
Obviously, rucking comes up really regularly in that context with special forces, anyone who's looking to deploy. But, you know, there's quite a lot of Josh Bryant, to some degree, has helped popularize this with individuals outside of these contexts, you know, whether it's getting fitter as a strongman or a powerlifter or whatever. In general, not just in the special forces, what is your advice for starting to ruck, and what it would be good practice for rucking for someone who is either maybe they're thinking about applying to deploy at some point, or wants to start including it as some form of GPP? What do you see done wrong, and how do you see what's good advice for building that up over time?
Perfect. Because so usually the dudes who want to get into spec ops have a high endurance background already, or very naturally good at it, because like me and you are never going to be like,
they wouldn't be there.
Well, no, we're never like, we're never going to be like, I want to go walk for 12 miles. At our, like, I don't know, what was the heaviest you were?
Ever?
Yeah.
230, 240.
Like, maybe like you could have transferred that very well. Like, I have some of my best ruckers are like, dude, I have some dudes 240 you could fucking blaze. And like, there's like that fine over 200 to like that 240 range. Like, so you could have transferred that, but like at our like biggest fast food phase, like we weren't exactly like, I want to walk any further than to a platform. And so the thing is, like, with the dudes who want to get into the field, a lot of the times they got to get fucking stronger. And so I swear to God, I'm answering your question, but those dudes, like, usually you need to get stronger, and it's a durability factor, because like you can't focus so hard on a pipeline that you're busted to shit after the pipeline. And that's where like there's an intelligent way to do all of the power, the hypertrophy, and the strongman to like work on the density versus the actual like traditional, because a lot of people, they like, that's the problem with like a lot of the like science stuff, is it doesn't apply to athletes and operators of how you apply hypertrophy, or building resilient size is different than building stage size. And a lot of people mess that up, because like it's easy to create the durability in a way that it carries over, because muscular endurance is a thing. So like when we're doing upper back and hamstring work, it's for the sake of the ruck, and it's for the sake of carrying heavy shit far. So I'm looking at more like the knee health than I am like, how does their quad sweep look? And so that's the art of bodybuilding and sport and tactical. But so if somebody wants to get into rucking, it depends on their background. Like, I think the best carryover you're going to get for rucking is sled walks, distance sled walks. We'll do that as off seasons for my guys to like save their backs, and we'll do waves of that. And that way you're getting all that ruck work on your hips without your spine, and we can save the spine. If somebody wants to get into it, it's a lot of time on feet. And so I would recommend just like grabbing chains, grabbing weight vests, grabbing like the ruck. Like, so I kind of wave the rucks like I would a lift on, like, we'll change where that load is. And so like we'll do like the Zercher harness and do that with kettlebells or chains, or like front loaded carry. So like that way, like you're feeling how to hold up my posture with the ruck. Because if you're like just wanting to ruck, like just get good at carrying stuff in a way that's like stimulating, because it gets old as shit just walking with a backpack. That's why you don't see operators rucking unless they have to. Like all my best ruckers, they're like, you know what we don't do? We don't ruck. Like, because guess what? Like, we know how to do it, and it like wears down on you. So we'll do it in different ways. Like I'll do a lot of off-season ruck variations, if you will. Like we'll take the safety bar and we'll suspend kettlebells. And like, so you're having to hold your posture and walk for a mile with suspended kettlebells dropping on you. We'll do chain walks. Like, so I'm like front loading it heavy. It's pulling me forward and I have to stay up. We'll do different, kind of like Forrest Gump of rucking. We'll do weight vests. I rarely, unless somebody is just like, I want to get into rucking. With those guys, I do time on feet a lot, where it's just like, at first, I'm not concerned with your distance and your pace at all.